Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of our series. Today we're going to continue with Module 1 and we're going to be doing a heavy ball animation. So, this is what we left or where we left off last time. We have this very nice bouncing ball animation. I'm going to turn the light, the shadows, all of this like bells and whistles off for just a second. I'm going to select my bouncing ball and what I'm going to do is I'm going to group it so that this group is clean, it has no animations. And I'm just going to press H to hide the group. So now if I play this thing, of course nothing's going to happen. So we're going to be doing a bowling ball bounce, and for that we always need to find some sort of reference. So let's look for bowling ball bounce, and let's see how it bounces. There's a lot of reference in YouTube. YouTube is going to be your friend, and take a look at this. Like if we compare this bounce to what we just did, what's the difference that you see? First, the bounce is not as high. The distance is not as much. And there's no deformation pretty much. It's a very like flat and very intense bounce here, right? So we're gonna get this. I do like the little roll that it has, so let's see if we can add that to our little mesh. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna create a new polygon here, a new sphere. I'm gonna make it slightly bigger just so that it has a little bit more contrast to the other sphere. Let's go to the front view. Let's turn on our grid. Move the pivot point down again, press the letter D and then letter B and snap it to the last vertex. And then with letter X, I'm gonna snap it to the grid. Freeze the transformations. And I'm gonna try and see if I can model this as a bowling ball. So I'm just gonna grab like 1, 2, and 3. Just delete those guys. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm just gonna grab this guys right here, here, and here. Let's extrude this edges. Extrude them down. And I'm just gonna say mesh, fill hole. I'm gonna grab that face, and that face. I'm gonna bevel it so we get like another edge loop down there, and that way we're gonna get this very nice looking element. I do think we can make this look a little bit better, so I'm just gonna select this whole thing. Let's change the scale to like component. I'm just gonna try to make this a little bit rounder. There we go. Same deal with this guy. So to change the component, just press R, click, and then go into component mode, and that follows a little bit more closely the direction of the elements, and that way we can get this like rounder effect. Perfect. So let's add a new material. Let's add a blend material, and I'm gonna show you a cool material here that you can use. This is something that I only use for animation purposes, but it looks cool. I'm gonna go into the color. And I'm gonna add a noise texture here. So if I press number 6, you're gonna see that we get this very cool looking effect. I'm gonna go UV and let's do another spherical mapping right here, just so that we get a nice texture pretty much everywhere. And then if we go into the node here, I can go into the color balance and we can change the colors of our object here. So the color gain, let's do like a dark green. There we go. I like that one. And then this one, it's gonna be like a lighter green. And you can play around with like the threshold and the amplitude, the ratio. Like this is just a noise node that's gonna give you like random noise. So I want to get this sort of like marble effect. You know, if you've ever been to a bowling alley, this is sort of the thing that you see, right? So now we're gonna go to the front view. It's just preparation. Go to the first frame. And I'm gonna position this roughly about there. I'm actually gonna turn on my sphere just to see where they're starting. I'm gonna make them start at the same position. But I am gonna do something here. I'm gonna move this back. So this thing is bouncing on a different depth, right? Well, actually it's not that back, it's this back. Right, there we go. Perfect. So now we can press H again on the group and that's gonna hide it. We're gonna select this guy, press S. And I'm gonna start by doing the bounce on the same place. This is a technique that I really like about animation, and that's the fact that instead of trying to do everything from the beginning, if you do it in phases, like in stages, sometimes it's a little bit easier. We're gonna see that once we get into the character animation. Sometimes if you animate only the torso and the pelvis first, and then the arms and the legs, and then the head and all the little fingers and stuff, that makes it a little bit easier to manage the whole animation process. So I'm gonna go to frame 7. I would expect this guy to fall in a pretty similar manner to what we have with the other ball. So it's gonna be like a very, very like fast fall here. And then we're gonna go up, but we're not gonna go that fast, right? So I'm gonna go like frame 11 and then frame 14, probably even less. Like let's do frame 10. It's gonna be like a bounce there. and then frame 13 is when we fall back down, and then frame 15 is probably gonna be another small bounce. Frame 17 is probably gonna go down here. Frame 19, one final bounce, and then frame 21 we hit there. So let's take a look at how this looks. Okay, yeah, that seems close to what I'm going for. I think on the first jump on this one we can go a little bit higher. Yep, I like that. So that's a good build-up, but as you remember from our previous exercise, there's a couple of things that we need to do here on the axis, on the curves, to make sure that they look a little bit nicer. So I'm gonna select this guy, and this guy, even this guy as well, and just break the tangents so that we can start moving these guys up and creating this sort of like sharp curve for the bouncing ball, or for the bowling ball. So we're gonna move these guys up like this. There we go. And I think I'm gonna go and weight the tangents as well, just to give this a little bit more of a floaty effect. If you press F, we can frame. So let me select everything and frame. There we go. So now we can control this a little bit better. And now let's see how this looks. That looks really good. So in this case, as you saw, I did not have any sort of guide or reference to know exactly how much of a distance I would need to have in between the frames. So how did I do it? Of course, practice is one of the answers, but the real answer here is I need to think about how I want the timing to be. Timing is one of those properties, and it's another principle of animation that tells us that the distance between the frames is the time it takes it to go from one place to another will affect the way the animation looks. The more frames you have, the more time you have, the slower the animation is gonna be. And the less frames you have, like in here where we only have 2 frames, the faster the animation is gonna be. So compare that to the animations that we have here on the bouncing ball, and you can see that there's enough space here on the bouncing ball to make it seem like it's actually like floating a little bit more. For the bowling ball, since we want a completely different approach, we're gonna be having a smaller element here. One thing that I forgot to do, let's change the name, let's call bowling ball. And now we can turn on the other sphere, and if we take a look and compare the bounces, you're gonna see that they're bouncing in a different way, which is exactly what we're going for. So the next step, of course, is to move this ball to the front. So I'm gonna go to the first frame, that's fine, and then the last frame, I'm not gonna move that much, I'm probably gonna move all the way until here only. I'm gonna hit S, just to set that keyframe. And we're gonna have the same issue, or not. Why do we not have the same issue here? Why is it actually moving in the proper way now? The reason why this is happening is because when we started animating this guy, we used the auto keyframe, and since it's only detecting changes on that axis, it's properly animating only that axis, which is the translate X. I'm still gonna change this the way we did, like modify the curve a little bit to get some nice speed at first, and then I slow down towards the end of the animation, and we're gonna get this. I think the last bounce is a little bit too high. So I would expect this bounce to be like really close to the finish line right there. That looks way better. Now, one thing that I did mention that I liked was the fact that we could add a little bit of a roll, right? Like, what if this ball rolls a little bit and we end up like just slightly farther out? Well, the problem here is that we have this pivot point down here, and if we start to roll this guy, well, it's not gonna really work, right? So how can we solve this? This is something that we're gonna be taking a look later on when we do some simple rigs, but there's something called a hierarchy. And if I group this guy, Control G, now this group right here is a parent of whatever is inside this, right? So this bowling ball will keep doing its animation down here, but this group, I'm gonna be able to animate something different in here. So if I center the pivot point here, wherever I move this guy, actually no, that the group's gonna move there. So in this case, what we're gonna do is the following. We're gonna go all the way down here, and then I'm gonna add a couple of extra frames, and let's just roll this guy a little bit, like half a turn, and move it. I don't want to confuse you with all the hierarchy and stuff. We're gonna be taking a look at that exercise in the next couple of elements. So we're gonna have this right here. Another thing we could do is we could have this ball rolling from the very beginning. The only thing is that we need to control the poses. So for instance, if I go into the graph editor and I check the rotations, I now have a rotation right here. If I eliminate this point, the sphere is going to start rotating from the very beginning, and we're going to get this effect. Now we just need to be very careful, because maybe due to the fact that the pivot point is rotating in a different way, we might need to fix a couple of the contact points to make sure that the sphere is not crossing the floor. So for instance, there, let's go there, let's go there, and then let's go there, and finally we stop right there. So now we're gonna have a ball that is rolling. So let's turn this off. Now, same thing, like the roll should be natural, and right now it has this sort of like slow in, slow out effect. So I'm just gonna move these things and make it a little bit smoother, a little bit more like a linear roll. So now if we take a look at the thing here, we're gonna be able to see it with the little holes there. There we go. So just make sure that if you add that little small roll to this sphere, that you make sure that the contact points need to be changed so that we have that nice effect. We won't be able to do that with this small rig that we did with the other ball, because this one is stretching and squashing, and that's going to completely modify a lot of things. But don't worry, we're going to be talking about, or we're going to be using some more advanced rigs later on, and we're going to be able to implement those sort of effects. So now, if we take a look at both of them at the same time, we have this. I do still think that that roll right there is very, very, like, it stops very quickly. So what I can do here is I can take this guy and let's just give it more time. So by giving it more time, we just need to make sure that there's no like weird bounce here with the ground floor, because this is the first hit there. See that? So the time will definitely modify the rotation, so we need to just check my positions here. Make sure that the ball is impacting with the ground. There we go. And now it just rolls. Now I'm gonna go here to this section right here. I'm just gonna move it down so that it rolls on the same like element. Probably move it a little bit forward so that the roll carries it a little bit farther out. And this is one of the things about animation. You're going to be tweaking and moving and checking stuff to make sure that everything looks and works in the best possible way. So for instance, here I'm noticing a small little jump here. See that right there? So I need to go into this intermediate frames called in-betweens, and I just need to adjust this guy so that it does not leave the ground. Even there, I would rather have an extra keyframe just to control that roll than have that little bounce looking very weird. And there we go. So we have a very heavy ball falling with a different timing, with a different spacing, with a different effect, and then we have our traditional bouncing ball here. And you can go into your lights, your shadows, your elements here, like all the little bells and whistles. Go into another, like a nice shot here. Let's go like something like there. I'm gonna right click, I'm gonna play blast. The only thing is I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna change bouncing ball, and I'm gonna add heavy ball. So that way we're gonna have two videos in our movies folder, and I'm gonna be able to see the two different versions. So we have the normal bouncing ball animation, and then we have this very heavy ball animation as well. And that's it, guys. This is it for this exercise. Now, as you're probably seeing with the way this course is structured, are a little different than the others that I've recorded for you guys. We're going to be doing a lot of exercises. So I strongly encourage you to do the exercises. Make sure they look good. If there's an issue, try to pinpoint what it is. Is it the spacing? Is it the position of the elements? Is it some sort of like maybe a curve that's looking weird? So make sure to try and find what the answer is for your issue. If you need to do the exercises 2, 3, 4 times, do them. They're short exercises. They're like 5 to 10 minute exercises that are going to give you a very nice mileage on your animation career. So we're going to do one more exercise with bouncing balls, and then we're going to jump onto some more interesting stuff. So hang on tight, and I'll see you back on the next one. Bye-bye.